Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Call Me Cordelia, the podcast where we talk about everything under the sun concerning Anne with an E. I'm Alexis,
And I'm Ophelia.
and this week is our 306 discussion rundown.
Woo!
We're excited. We're exuberant. Um, I will say for this episode, there are some trigger warnings that we kind of felt like we needed to throw out there. If you somehow have not watched the episode, if you don't know what the episode entails, if you're just listening to it, or even if you did watch the episode and you weren't quite sure, like what was going to be covered in the podcast, we did want to give a quick trigger warning. We're going to be discussing a scene, the Josie and Billy scene, obviously. So trigger warnings for sexual assault, non-consent. So just be aware. We're going to be talking about that. And if that is something that you don't want to hear about, then we will warn you again right before we start talking about it. And you can skip. I think we will put a timestamp in the description under the YouTube video for how long we talk about it. And you can either click off or skip to the next part. So we just figured we'd go ahead and throw that out there because, as Amy Beth said, it was kind of a heavy episode. So, Ophelia, overall general thoughts about the episode? You like it, not like it?
Okay.
Emotions?
Yeah. I loved it in the sense of tone. There were better episodes before, but I loved how they played with heartache in an episode that was at a fun fair and was very jolly and whatever, very like light-hearted for everyone else except for Anne, and I really like that tonal switch. Um, so yeah, I'm happy about it despite the heartache we experienced. What about you?
I'm with you, and I think that the tone threw me off. We knew we were getting a fair episode this week, and I think that automatically made me sort of feel like it was going to be a lighthearted, just like slice of life episode. Just kind of a break from all of the emotions, which definitely should have known better. But I think I just went into it with different expectations. Not to say that I was disappointed. It was just it took a little bit of adjusting. It did deal with a lot of emotions that I did not expect to have to be dealing with. Like my friend was going back this week and rewatching season 1, and she like showed me a screenshot from it, and I was like, holy shit. Like the spelling bee, could we ever have imagined that we would be dealing with Anne watching Gilbert be with another girl? Like none of us were ready for it. But I think that it talked about a lot of important things too, and a lot of things that affect a lot of different people. There were a
Yes.
lot of people in my Ask Box this week who were not very excited about, particularly the way I think that Gilbert was in this episode, which we'll talk about when we get there. But I think, Ophelia, I was telling you about this. I think that a lot of the emotion behind that people are feeling is mainly coming from, like watching someone that you like be with somebody else is not a great feeling. And I feel like it's something that a lot of different people can relate to. So I think for me, at least, I was like watching it and I was feeling kind of secondhand, like it was bringing up some memories. So
Yeah, I think we'll dive into it deeper a little later in the podcast, but we have to see Gilbert as its own person. He is Gilbert the person and Gilbert in a relationship, and right now that is not with Anne, and that is not his fault. It's no one's fault. And definitely, like you said, we can all relate to seeing someone you like be with someone else. I have many stories. Many of those are drunk. Um,
oh my gosh,
but
Tipsy Ophelia is my favorite.
you guys should see the Snapchats, but whatever.
It's so great.
Anyway, who would have thought that Anne Shirley Cuthbert would talk about her feelings to Diana Barry?
Well,
Thoughts?
not me is the first thought that I have. I feel like we've talked about Sherbert admitting their feelings, and last week we talked about how there needs to be honest conversations with somebody we feel like talking out their feelings more with a third party like Gilbert and Bash, and I think I said like Marilla and Anne or something, but Anne and Diana was the absolute. I was not expecting it, and I was not at all mad at it. I really loved that scene. Diana Barry is still my Sherbert ship captain. I named her that in season 2,
Same.
and I'm sticking by it. Yeah, like when she said, "And since when do you care about since when do you care what Gilbert Blythe thinks?" And she also re-brought up the remember when Cole said he thought Gilbert had a crush on you. So
She
obviously
knew it
implying
since day one. She knew.
I know Diana has been new, but just the fact that she brought up Cole's telling Anne that they've talked about it before then.
Yeah, I was surprised too. Like Anne must have said that Cole said to her that Gilbert might have a crush on her. It's insane to me.
She probably was like, Diana, can you believe that? And Diana's like, no, as she hides her 600-page Sherbert fan fiction in her desk.
Oh my god, yeah.
She also mentioned, or Anne mentioned, I was like Elizabeth Bennet dancing with Mr. Darcy, and I screamed because so many people brought up that comparison. I think we even talked about it last week, and I
Yeah,
was
you
not
you
expecting.
did. You did, yeah.
Yeah, not at all expecting that. How did you feel about that scene?
Um, well, first of all, I was surprised that they even talked about their feelings. I thought it would happen in season 5, honestly. Because of who she is. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was beautifully worded as well. It was a beautiful dialogue. And just yeah, I was surprised too because you said like, oh, it's like Darcy and Elizabeth. And the fact that she also felt it that way, it's very telling of how well we are responding to the things we're seeing because that's what they wanted us to see, and that's quite
Yeah.
nice. Um,
Oh, I had a few people were talking to me on Tumblr and stuff, and they were telling me that they felt like it was out of character for Anne to be the first one to say something. And at first I kind of agreed. But the more that I thought about it, the more it sort of made sense to me because we know Anne as being the far more emotional, heart-driven one of the two of them. So I think that when she feels things, she feels them like hard. So we've kind of they've kind of been giving us hints that Anne has been sort of repressing her feelings for Gilbert pretty much
yeah,
since season 1. And I think that she has become so comfortable with him. I mean, like, we have scenes of Gilbert's comfortable enough being over at the Cuthbert house to go ask Matthew for some cufflinks.
oh my
Just like
god.
casual stuff like that. I think that Gilbert's just kind of become part of her life. And then the whole dance thing happened, and I think anybody would react that way if they had that intimate of a moment with somebody. So I think that Anne just feels things like she's so emotional that jumping to the fact that she's pretty sure she's in love with Gilbert is not that far of a leap. Yeah, I don't know. So that's kind of the what I came to. Did it feel out of character to you at all?
No, I was surprised, but it wasn't odd for me. Like you said, it made sense in the context of the show and what has happened. But yeah, Gilbert asking for cufflinks and then that little moment when she's out the window and they wave at each other. Cute.
Gold. It was so cute. I've seen a few edits with that scene in there, and it's adorable. They had a direct parallel even within the episode. They talked about when Anne was, oh gosh, she was either talking to the cult or to Diana, I can't remember, but she said, "Is he my destiny?" And then I think Bash is talking to Gilbert later on about Winnie, and he says, "Well, is that your destiny?" So
Really?
the yeah, and I think the wording is very intentional.
Obviously.
Always.
Also, when she said like, "Oh, and I think he felt it too," and last episode he was talking about how he felt to Bash. I
Oh
was
god.
screaming, Jesus.
screeching. The other parallel that was in there was oh, when he's talking to Bash, Gilbert is sitting there, talking to Bash, like trying on the shirt, which by the way, knitting the socks, Bash knitting. Amazing. I just love him so much. But he says he's talking to Bash about how he's fond of Winnie, and Bash says fond enough for love, which again I think is a very direct parallel to Mary telling him that he needs to marry for love and only for love. I don't know if he was thinking about that or if that's going to come back up again later, but it's interesting. It seems like they were calling back to it. So if they still are, that makes me feel like that's not the last time it's going to be brought up. Kind of like what we talked about last time, defining what's the difference between liking somebody and being in love with somebody, which I just thought was interesting.
Let's focus for a second on Gilbert and Winnie because you brought her up now. So let's focus on them for a second. She's easy to be with. That's an interesting thing to say about the girl you're kind of sort of courting, no?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people can talk about like, oh, it's easy to be with that person, but just the way that Gilbert said it and in the context of his relationship with Anne,
Yeah.
they've already established, obviously in the past seasons they've had their issues, but they've had their issues this season too. Talking about when they were on the train and he got mad at her and stuff like that. I think that it's directly calling back to the fact that it's hard to get along with Anne sometimes, and they definitely have their differences.
To me, it's just that. To me, that's just the reason why Winifred and Gilbert won't work because she's easy. Not in a bad sense, but just she's too going with the flow, and I think he needs that challenge. I think he needs a real person because Winnie is too perfect. She's too clean cut. He needs someone that can relate to him in a way that she will never, because Gilbert and Anne are both orphans, and Gilbert even said like, I'm an orphan, what do I have to offer her? So like he knows like it won't be perfect, but he's willing to settle. And that's basically what I'm trying to say. He's willing to settle because she's pretty and easy and smart and rich,
Well, and
and
Bash
he
even
can go to
says that.
Sorbonne. So,
Like, Bash even uses the term, so you've settled on Winnie.
oh
Like,
yeah,
yeah, so I think that that's a perfect way to put it. Like, it just seems like he's sort of settled for something that seems like it's going to be easy. She's pretty, she's older, which, by the way, all of the people that were concerned, me included, about her age, I think I read that Moira commented on someone's picture that Winnie is supposed to be 19, which,
oh, wait, really,
yeah, that's still
really?
like 2 years older, but like, I don't know. I don't know. But I did really enjoy the little interaction that she had with Anne
Yeah,
when she got introduced and she said, Anne, is that with an E? Like, that was just like a cute little, I don't know. I really don't think they're going to go with any sort of animosity
no,
with Anne and Winnie, because all Anne did was talk about how great Winnie was. Like, she's beautiful, she's smart. And during the dance, even when they were all together and Anne had to sort of watch Gilbert dance with her, it was very Gilbert focused. It wasn't the focus wasn't on Winnie, which was, in my opinion, a good thing. It wasn't like Anne was angry at her or anything. It was just more framed in disappointment, I think,
yeah,
than anything.
definitely. Also interesting how when Gilbert is trying to find a word for Winnie as like a label, she looks mad because I also think she doesn't want to court Gilbert, so that's why she just interrupts him and is like, I'm Winifred, like just Winifred, not his or anything. I don't think she wants to court him either.
by the same token, I feel like it's the fact that her parents were there was pretty telling.
Oh, oh yeah.
Um, I think it's supposed to be a sort of courting relationship, but I do agree that it sometimes seems like she's not that interested in that. Like they just interact more like friends, which I could totally be misreading that with a prejudice towards Sherbert, but you know, I don't know.
I read a fic where she came out as a lesbian, and honestly, I'm for it. Honestly.
Honestly, hey, I would be all for it. Okay, like she just seems, I don't know, and I don't know if it's the actress is acting or if it's just how her lines are coming across, but it still just feels so uh thin, like shallow, I guess is the word for it. It
Yeah.
doesn't, I'm not sold. And I don't think that's just because I'm a Sherbert stan. I think it's because I'm not supposed to be sold on it. And I've said that about 80 million times now, but I think they continued it with the way that they interacted this episode, you know? So
Um, by the way, I don't know if I have to if we're gonna put this in, but I was thinking of a pun for Winifred because I remember Parrish was burnt toast to me in Teen Wolf, and I thought of Winnie as in win a fridge, like a fridge, because she leaves Gilbert cold and Anne makes him warm and fuzzy. So Winifred becomes Winifridge.
oh, that's honestly not terrible, and I did see that in your notes and laughed when I saw it. So,
Sorry, so back to I just wanted to say it. I don't know why. Um,
well,
whatever.
speaking of that, very interesting how Gilbert immediately pulled Winnie's hand off of his arm so that he could run after Anne
Ooh, yes.
in that one scene. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about our latest clownery, which was the mural scene. Ophelia, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I'm surprised Winnie wasn't even phased. He ran after her, so maybe she knows. I don't know. Um, but what I thought of the mural, we were clowned a little bit because I thought it would have a positive connotation. It was still a meaningful scene, but obviously it's a very heartbreaking scene for both of them, actually. But I really loved it, and it was still really telling of their relationship because Gilbert was looking at her so intensely. I think he was a little stunned by her because she was really pretty this episode. But also confused, obviously, because he didn't know what she was talking about. But I really liked the mural scene despite being clowned. What about you?
Yeah. And I'm actually staring at the GIF that is currently your header, which is the mural scene. And we mentioned this last time, and I think somebody sent it in to you, but the couple that is walking in the background, I don't know, man. They're the only people that come up in that whole scene,
Yeah.
and they're wearing the same colored clothing. It's not just like, oh, the boy has dark hair and the woman kind of looks a little bit like she has auburn hair. It's like they're wearing like a very light pastel color and a dark jacket, and not everyone there was. So I just feel like it absolutely was not a coincidence. And as for like the mural scene, I guess I thought it was so cute how Gilbert immediately knew that like what Anne would want or need to hear was Mary would have found that really funny. And then later on, Marilla comes back and basically says the same thing. Like Mary would have laughed and laughed. Um, yeah, I don't know. It was a confusing scene, I think, for both of them because Gilbert was very taken aback by that. Obviously, like Anne's reaction was not what he was expecting,
Yeah.
and I think he's smart. Like, there's no way he didn't catch on to what was going on. But also, in right after that scene, I just I don't know if this was me reading too much into it, so I'd love to hear what you think. But when Anne was sitting on the ground, kind of crying, the it kind of got a little bit blurry and quiet, and my friend and I even were like, "Oh, no, no, no," because that's exactly what it looks like right before she goes into a flashback, which she has not had this season, uh, if I am not mistaken. But it looked like she was going into a flashback. And then I was like, "Oh, wait, they didn't." So I was kinda confused for a second, but to me, it honestly sort of felt like they were hinting that Anne was flashing back again to, like, "No one will ever want you," or something similar like that girl said to her. I don't know, it was just an interesting shot, and I couldn't tell why they did that.
Oh wow. I didn't notice it, so thank you for pointing it out. So I don't know exactly what you mean. Like I remember the shot, but I don't exactly know the details. But it could very likely be, to be honest, with the way you're describing it, that they were subtly referencing um her past and oh, that's really sad. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Because just the way that it was shot, like, nothing else has been shot that way this season, and the it's interesting how it was clear enough that it wasn't just me, like, the friend that I was watching with was saying, "No, is she gonna flash back?" Or so we both kind of got that vibe. So I don't know. That was interesting. Um,
What did you think of the psychic?
that was interesting too. I wasn't I don't know what I was expecting. I personally don't in any situation like have like think that psychics carry that much weight or vision, but I didn't realize I was not expecting it. I guess I didn't expect it to be framed as she was a fraud immediately. Like maybe a little sketchy or like pulling stuff out of her butt, but they were very clearly showing like, "Oh, no, she's like a fraud, like, she actually has no idea what she's talking about." There was no mystery to it whatsoever.
Yeah, but her
Did
heart is in the right place though, because like at the end when Anne is crying at her desk, like my one true love is in the arms of another woman, like and then she's like, you just have to find another fish. Like that was definitely her trying to console this girl. Um, but I'm not surprised they made her look like a fraud from the beginning because Anne with an ease from the get-go very like right on with what is happening. Even
Mhm.
with with everything that's going on, they're like, oh yeah, that's the way it is. So I
Yeah,
wasn't
I think I was
surprised.
just expecting her to not play such a big part. Like, I kind of thought Anne was maybe gonna go into the tent and ask about whatever, and then this psychic was just gonna give her a fortune that may or may not have just come out of her ass, and then Anne would be on her merry way, but she, like, went back to her and got advice, and it was nice. I was just not expecting it, I think, but yeah. However, in terms of real romance, I think it's time that we talk about, Diana and Jerry.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yes! Love
Yes.
it. Take it away,
They're
honestly. I don't even know what to say.
um they're amazing. Just like as one word, I would say amazing because they're the alternate timeline to Anne and Gilbert if they were cooperating properly. So it's nice to see that, oh, like this is a healthy relationship. So I really liked how they were secretive and flirty and sneaky and like, oh, did you read the book? Did you get my handkerchief? And then like a super cute consensual kiss between them. And Diana started it, and I was shook.
I was
Just
quaking.
they're amazing, and I'm really scared for when the secret comes out or when she has to go to Paris, leaving Jerry alone. Like I'm not ready for Derry to be split apart. Yeah.
No, which it will. It's absolutely going to come out at some point. Um,
No.
Yeah, I screamed my lungs out. And I also thought it was interesting that Diana kissed him first because do you remember that scene from season 2 where all the girls were like pretending up in Anne's room to be like princes and stuff? And then Anne said, well, if I wanted to kiss a boy, why wouldn't I just do it? So I think that was kind of like Diana, I don't know, taking cues off of Anne. It was just really cute. And I like the secretiveness, but again,
Yeah.
I am aware that it's definitely not going to last for long.
What if
Um,
they elope?
oh, I think my brain just short circuited because I don't have any sort of comment about that. Like I just don't even know what to say. Wow.
Diana
You
would
think
do it because she doesn't want to go to Paris. She would do it. She would elope and then
she
hide
would?
in the Baynard farm or whatever. Like, she would do it. She would.
I think you just killed my last 2 brain cells because they're not functioning right now. Okay, anyway. Oh my gosh, and Jerry's response when he was just like, "Whoa." Oh my so freaking cute. I some people I saw online kind of complaining that they got together super fast, but y'all, we're dealing with Sherbert. Are you really going to complain if we don't need 2 painfully slow burning ships, okay? Like this is just a nice little
Yeah.
break from the angst that we're having to deal with on the regular. So,
I had
just putting that
friends.
out there.
We were like at a 24-hour fundraiser thing, and they just met, and then 12 hours later, they were like together. And
Oh,
that's how little time you need to find each other. So
yeah.
whatever.
When you know, unless
Well,
you're
you know.
Sherbert and you're stubborn. Speaking of rays of light in the darkness of Sherbert angst, Matthew Cuthbert stays
Cutie.
pure and wonderful and amazing. His like little arc with the turnip this episode was so cute, and he deserves every award ever.
Yeah, he's just the cutest. He's my MVP, by the way. What's yours?
Oh, I think my MVP is Jerry. Honestly, this episode, I really like.
Understandable.
Yeah, we stand consent, which we'll get into later, and we stand a strong boy because he made Billy look like an absolute weakling. He just killed it. I also, oh my gosh, when he and Miss Stacy danced together, that was so cute, and I loved it so much. They're my bro TP, I think.
Let's piss off Rachel Lind. Fuck yeah.
Oh hell yeah! And that's all she had to say to get him to dance too. Like he was
Yeah.
all for it.
He
Um,
fucking hates her. I love it. I
I
love
love it so much because it's like also implied that he's known her literally since they were in school, and I'm sure he's. I would get fed up with Rachel Lind as well. So you know, but she did. I will say she had a good moment. Like when the other women were kind of talking shit about Miss Stacy, and she was like wearing trousers and shooting the gun and stuff. And she was like, no, like she doesn't always wear trousers. Like even the fact that she said anything to the ladies defending Miss Stacy was a big step. And then when she rounded that out, when she said, she's really quite an exceptional person, I thought that was so cute. So
Yeah,
she
her
can be
heart
fond
is in the
famous.
right place. Her heart is in the right place, but she's a bitch, but whatever.
Yeah, I think she's horribly misguided just by like the time period and
Hmm.
everything. But other than that, like I do think her heart is in the right place. It just doesn't manifest very well.
What about
Um,
Marilla?
Marilla was being really cute this episode too. I loved her. She was killing it. Um, like I said earlier, just the way that she brought up like when the whole fiasco with Anne's cake happened, which actually is it's one of those iconic book moments. Um
Oh,
that they
really?
put in the show. Yeah, so that was in the books. So it's like a green hair dye or like a Diana getting drunk moment, I guess. But the fact that Marilla also thought to tell Anne that Mary would have laughed and laughed at it was, uh, I don't know why that line made me so upset, but it did, and I cried a little bit.
I thought the vanilla thing would be an aphrodisiac.
Oh gosh.
Because of the whole birds and the bees and the kissing and the romance, whatever. Like, I thought some weird shit was about to happen, but it didn't. It's fine. But I was so sure. I was so sure.
Oh gosh. It was, yeah. Honestly, the also how Marilla up in the air balloon. Oh my gosh, the Shirley Cuthbert family up in the air balloon.
So cute.
So cute. I love them so much. It was just like Marilla telling Anne, Anne, hang on, and then I don't know. It's just I think that's a really good scene to show how much of an impact that Anne has had on Matthew and Marilla because you absolutely cannot tell me that without Anne Shirley there, Marilla would have ever even thought about stepping into a hot air balloon.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like a little family now. It's cute. And especially like when Matthew gave her the button of most
Oh,
unlikely or something, most unique, whatever. It was
most
really cute.
unusual.
Most unusual, that's it. Really cute.
It was amazing. Oh, another really cool character interaction that I liked and did not expect was Prissy was back,
Yeah.
and yeah, and her little talk with Jane was I really liked that.
Yeah, and like Brissy was so grown up. Obviously, she's a, not a minor anymore, but she was so grown up and like a woman of the world, and it was really cute and nice to see her again. I was surprised to see her make a cameo in the show, but
Yeah,
it made
it didn't
sense.
like hit me for a second that it was supposed to be like a cameo until I
Yeah.
don't know. It just took me a minute to remember that Prissy's like not there anymore. But the fact that she called Billy and Josie's courtship, she's like, "Oh, the cattle auction." I was laughing and also Queen. I'm glad that she acknowledged that. But I don't know, like her little interaction with Jane when they were kind of walking around and making jokes. I just really enjoyed that. I was really cute.
What did you think of Ruby and Moody or hashtag Rudy?
Okay. I'm going to try to say this as calmly as possible,
No,
but
go
I'm
off. Scream,
I'm
please.
so ready to stand. They're at the dance like oh my gosh, like they didn't even show Ruby didn't even react for a second to the fact that Gilbert was there with another older woman. Not a tear was shed, not a single reaction. All that we saw was her looking up at Moody and giving the cutest little smile and the little wave. Oh, I love that. Like it just kind of it came out of nowhere, but like in a good way. I don't know how to say that. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think it's just that they're so compatible in every way. They're like on the same wavelength, the same energy, the same vibe. It just makes sense. Um, they kind of remind me of Rachel Lynde and her husband Thomas.
Right.
Like they're so like a little quirky and just like part of the community and like so fun and flirty. Like I think that's kind of how they are, but as young people. Like it's just a cute, vibey thing. I don't know.
Yeah, and no one would have ever or I didn't like ever even think of that as a possibility. I know people for a while were kind of like, "Oh, maybe Ruby will end up with Jerry or whatever, or just some random guy." But no, like and I can't even really put my finger on why they're so compatible, but they just work.
Yeah.
I can't even like explain it. But I do know that there is I will put this I'll just throw this out there. There are some people that are very worried because okay, I say this hesitantly and take this with a grain of salt, but in the books, spoiler alert for the books, Ruby dies. and she dies right after she finds her true love, like the person that she actually wants to be with. Because in the books and other original adaptations, Ruby's kind of flighty and very much like gets a lot of guys, and she finds this one guy and they're like working out great, and then Ruby dies. So I just know a lot of people have been worried about Ruby dying for like a while, but the fact that she's now kind of pairing off with Moody is making a lot of people very nervous.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
ominous. Like, I knew Ruby would die because people have spoiled me in my ass box. Thank you guys. Um, but now that you said it's right after she found her bow, that's concerning. I hope they don't follow the books in that way. I hope they divert from that. Or no, I don't know. No, I don't want her to die. God, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
it's just
stressful.
it is kind of ominous, and again, we've talked about it so many times, but we don't like comparing adaptions. However, it's just interesting that they've been dealing with this whole Gilbert situation for 2 seasons, and now it's coming to an end because of a different guy, kind of. So I hope that we see more of them. I absolutely would adore more scenes of them. But
Same.
yeah, I don't know. It made me a little bit nervous.
Um, I think right now we'll talk about the dance between Gilbert and Winifred, and then we'll start talking about what conspired between Josie and Billy. So, again, we'll put a warning in right before we start talking about it, because we don't want you guys to be upset about the things we talk about. But first, Gilbert, Anne, and Winifred. I was almost crying, basically. So, what about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. I broke out my clown shoes for that one because we've said about a million times over, oh guys, don't worry, like the dance is gonna be a parallel with Winnie and Gilbert versus like how he felt with Anne, and it wasn't that I could see. Like he still kind of looked like he was having a good time with Winifred,
Yeah.
and but watching Anne see that was very painful. Like we talked about at the very beginning of the episode, I think that's a feeling that a lot of people can relate to, including myself. Even specifically like with school dances and stuff, like watching a dude that I like go to school dances with someone else and dance with her. It's not great. So I just it brought up a lot of, well, it didn't like bring up a lot of feelings, but it was, I could watch that and be like, oh god, yeah, girl, like I know exactly how you're feeling right now. Um, yeah, it was so sad.
Also, it made me kind of stressed because I thought that the dance would be the turnaround between Gilbert and Winifred, where she would see, like, oh, Anne and Gilbert, they're not a thing yet, but something's brewing, and that she would, back away. But that hasn't happened yet, so I'm kind of scared that she will remain for the entirety of season 3 and beyond. Because although I know that Sherbert is the eventual end game and that we shouldn't worry about that, like I'm curious how long they will keep her as a love interest for Gilbert. It's just
I'm a
yeah.
little stressed now. Yeah, I'll agree with that. I will say I'm obviously I'm not worried. Anne and Gilbert are still endgame. I'm not worried about that. It's just I think I was also very much expecting Winnie to only really be sticking around as a love interest for the remainder of the season at most. And I would not be thrilled if we had to leave season 3 without news of season 4 on a note of Gilbert still being with her. That wouldn't be fun. So I hope that doesn't happen, but I'm not so sure anymore. Okay, so we are going to be moving on to our next point. We're going to be talking about Josie and Billy. So, as we said at the beginning, if you are triggered by sexual assault or anything like that, or non-consent, then now would be a good time to either click off of the episode, or we will put a description in the description. We'll put a timestamp in the description box for where you can skip to
Yeah.
whenever we stop talking about it. So we definitely don't want anyone to be upset, as Ophelia said, or triggered. We absolutely do not want that, but we are going to be addressing it. So that was definitely not something I was expecting, but I also, by the same token, feel like I should have not thought it above and with an E to like make that a discussion, because it's a very important thing to discuss. And I think that the reactions we saw from the townspeople and even from the other girls is very telling of why it was so important to talk about, because that was exactly how women were treated back then, in regards to assault, rape,
Yeah.
things like
And
that. So
it's kind of a continuation of the one little scene in season 2 where Anne screams at Billy, a skirt is not an invitation. And now they kind of brought it on a bigger scale, on a more serious scale, because they're older now and they can discuss it. And I think their audience has also grown. I think they're growing with their audience. So, um, although like, I was really like all over the place when it happened because we both weren't expecting it. I am interested to see about the reaction of the people once Anne publishes her story in the Gazette, because it'll be life changing, community changing, I guess.
it's hard to say exactly what I think Anne is probably writing about, but I'm pretty stoked to see it next week. But the even the reactions of the girls,
Oof.
I think was, yeah, it was difficult, and it was not what I was expecting, but I think in context of, the show and the time period, that's very accurate. I would say, immediately blaming Josie and talking about how shameful it was and everything. I would love to see Miss Stacy not get involved, but if it's brought up around Miss Stacy, I definitely think she would absolutely nip it in the bud immediately and come down very hard on people talking about it, or at least I would hope so. But one of the other things that people have been talking to me about is that they were a little confused by Gilbert's reaction or lack thereof
God.
to it. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Okay, so I have strong emotions about this because I think people are overreacting. And I'm going to pull up, hopefully, I can find it because it's in an ask and it's been quite busy on my blog, so I hope I can find it. But basically, the fact that Gilbert didn't see what happened, there's no proof. And although we know now to like believe the victim because no one would lie about that, obviously, or just normally if you're not a psychopath. He's a critical person. He needs proof. There's no proof, and in that time period, it was not a usual thing. It was it wasn't normal. So I'm not mad at him for reacting the way he did, and also he was taken aback because Anne was screaming at him about something totally unrelated. So I'm not mad. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think that it was.
that's it. Gilbert is progressive, not a flawless feminist. Thank you. Your turn.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I think that if Billy were to say something in Gilbert's presence, because what he was saying, like the bad things that he was saying, Gilbert was not like in that conversation. He was kind of like off to the side. So it's not like it was being directed at him. But if he were to hear Billy, say something nasty about Josie, I definitely think he would say something then. But really, I think it's not. How do I say this? The way that it was being framed, it's mainly being made about Josie and about Billy and about the situation that happened. So I think that is something that is. Mm, I think that's what they're more wanting the outrage to be at. I don't think it's supposed to be focused on Gilbert right
Yeah.
now and his reaction to it. But again, he's progressive. He's not a flawless feminist, and I do think if Billy were to say something nasty about Josie in his presence, or uh, something were to come out where it's like, oh, he did like hurt her, Gilbert would obviously not just like nod along with it or anything. I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it wasn't so much about Gilbert as much as it should have been about like Josie and everything that happened. So I think this plot line is. Amy Beth did tweet about it like right before and talked about it was going to be a tough episode with a lot of emotions and questions. So if you did have emotions, questions brought up because of this episode, definitely talk to somebody about that. And I would say talk to somebody about that because I do think this is a plot that is probably going to last like 3 episodes or so. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and I think it'll probably intertwine with Coquette and the Mikwak. I'm sorry if I say the name of the tribe wrong. Um, because I think Anne will discover her love for writing exposés. So I think that'll kind of intertwine with that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how or if she changes people's minds because again, um it's not like there's proof and it's not like they can go back on security cameras and watch and see what happened. I think if anything, it's going to have to be more of a mind change that like there's no proof. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like Anne can like bring something to light or expose something as much as she's going to have to change people's opinions and outlooks
Yeah,
on um that culture and situation. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I remember Delmar saying in a promo that season 3, like they amped everything up to 200%, and now we know why, because it's all very intense. Also, guys, side note, did you realize that Dalmar, who plays Bash in the show, was Danny on Degrassi?
I never watched Degrassi, but I was freaking out with you.
You never watched Degrassi?
I did not. I don't know. I feel like that there's a big gap in my teenage years missing where I did not watch Degrassi, but I didn't.
Yes. That was my life for a few years. Yeah. Anyway, that's a side note. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I remember you sending me that and yeah, a lot of people are on Degrassi. I feel like you can go back and watch it and pick out a lot of very random actors that got their start on there.
Yeah, because like it's a Canadian teen show that has been going on for I think 2 decades or even more. So like everyone starts there. Like even Drake was on a show. Like
Oh
it's
yeah,
just
you said
every
about that.
Canadian actor and singer was on that show. It's so funny, and I love Delmore. So anything else? Oh, so this is a part where we can put a timestamp. Because I think we're done talking about it. Um, unless you have something to add still.
I don't, but again, I'm just going to reiterate if this episode did bring up any particular emotions or questions
Yeah.
while you were watching it, do feel like you can definitely talk to somebody about that. Um, bring it up to someone that you trust or someone that you feel like you can talk to about. So, yeah, that's what I'll say, but we are going to move on from that for now.
Yeah. I just wonder what Gilbert's thoughts were during the heart mural scene. I just wonder what his thoughts were. Like that's what do you think? Because I've been wondering this for
I
like
honestly, I'm honestly not 100% sure. I would say if I had to pin it like something to it, it seems like he was very confused, obviously, but not just at the fact that he realized he wasn't sure what Anne was talking about, but it almost looked like for a brief second he was like, wait, like, does she mean, is she jealous? But I just don't think he's allowing himself to even think that, like I just think it's not even, I don't think he's given up on it. I think he's just pushed it to the side and kind of felt like it's just not going to happen now. And that probably will change. I don't know. I bet he's going to be thinking about that for sure.
yeah, because
Um,
the thing is, like, we still have so many Sherbert scenes that still have to happen and that we haven't seen yet, so it's going to be exciting.
yeah, I'm very stoked about it. I think that we have a lot of possibilities ahead of us. So it's going to be cool to see which way they end up going with it. So I think we should go through our Q&A now because we got a few of you
Sure.
guys sent in some questions from our pod blog. So if you guys ever have any questions or anything that you want us to cover specifically in the next episode, you can send those over to Call Me Cordelia podcast on Tumblr in our Ask Box, and we will do our best to answer them. I think we did get to some of the points that were brought up in these questions, but we're gonna go through them anyway. So Spidey with two eyes, Jane, said, "Do you think that the whole Mary for Love thing has to do with Winifred being easy to be with, as Gilbert said, and now her father's offering to get him into a fancy medical school? Do you think it'll accumulate into Gilbert realizing none of those things actually matter if he doesn't love the person he's with, and ultimately lead him to confess his feelings to Anne and leave Winnie?"
Oh, okay. I thought you were replying.
No, you did.
Probably. Like yeah, probably. I'd say like he'll realize like, oh, this is not the life I want. Or maybe it'll even come from Winifred's part, like, dude, I don't like you. I don't want to court you. Bye. So yeah, Marry for Love will definitely be a catalyst in this season or the next. Yeah.
Yeah, like we said, I think it definitely is going to come back up. I don't think that's the last we're going to hear about Mary for Love, or kind of an allusion to it, I guess. But it is interesting. I didn't really think about that Winifred's father offering to help get him into the medical school. So I wonder if it's not going to kind of be framed as Gilbert feeling like, oh, everything makes sense. Like, she's easy to be around. She's pretty. Her dad can help me get into this medical school. So why do I still feel like I can't do this? Like, I wonder if they're not going to push the issue of marriage more, because they were kind of hinting at that, and Bash even brought it up. So I wonder if they're not going to be kind of like pushing like Gilbert to propose, and then he realizes like, whoa, actually, I don't want this.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, like, because he was a little bit freaking out when Bash brought up marriage. So I wonder if her parents aren't going to kind of say something soon. Yeah, I don't know. I think I just feel like, yeah, Mary for Love is definitely going to come back up. Our next one was from Ants Paul, and it says, "What are your predictions for Jerry and Diana this season?"
Eloping. Elope.
Every
Elope.
time.
I don't know, dude. It's just really cute and it will crash and burn. But my fanfic mind is going to eloping. So, done.
That's, you know what, and that's fine. That is an acceptable answer. I don't really have any predictions. I think that the only thing I can really say is that I'm like 99.999% sure that everyone's going to find out, and I have a feeling Anne is going to be someone that finds out and is not going to be thrilled about it at first, but it's definitely going to be a big deal. whenever it comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really all the predictions I have, other than just general like adorableness and further shipping. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that. The next question is from Bon Duel, I believe. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. But it says, I would like to hear what you think about how Gilbert is being written this season. I'm not bummed about him courting Winnie. I like her more and more, TBH, but not noticing and caring why Anne was crying, not caring about Billy and Josie drama. That's not the Gilbert that we know and love.
We've talked about this. Gilbert is not a flawless feminist. He's not a manic pixie dream boy that is chasing behind Anne every fucking second. He's becoming his own person. He's like 17, 18 years old, so I like him. I like how he's written, so.
Though it's like what we said about the whole Billy and Josie drama. I don't think Gilbert is supposed to be a central point in it. I think that the main players are, I mean, obviously everyone, but Gilbert, yeah, I don't know. I think Ophelia summed it up pretty perfectly. He's progressive. He's not a perfect feminist, and I wish that he would say something, but just the time period that they're in, it makes sense, I guess. I don't know how else to word that, but I'm not mad about how he's being written this season. I think he's just growing up. He's maturing. He went through a lot the past few years, and that's definitely going to affect where he's at. So, and I got an anon that said, so how do you feel about Gilbert and Anne's relationship right now, especially the change in Gilbert's mindset? He seems oblivious to how he feels when he's dancing with Anne in episode 5. Interesting how his first reaction in describing Winnie was, she's easy to be with, which he then quickly corrected by saying he's fond of her.
I think you have a better I think you have better thoughts about it than I do, so you can take this one first.
Oh, well, I absolutely, I don't think he seemed oblivious in episode 5. I think if anything, it was confusion when he was dancing with Anne. He seemed very confused about what he was feeling. We talked about it last time, but I think very much hinting that he is in love with her and he's trying to puzzle that out. But I don't think he was oblivious. Yeah, I don't think he was oblivious. If anything, he's oblivious to how Anne feels about him, but I'm sure that will be worked out in due time. And by due time, I mean in like 80 seasons, but and then we talked about this also, but describing Winnie as she's easy to be with was, it was interesting, and it was definitely on purpose that it was described that way. And I totally forgot about this, but you're right. He does correct himself and say like, "Oh, I'm fond of her." So I don't really know what that means, if I'm being honest. Like, there might be subtext there. I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, but yeah, definitely interesting. I think that's the only real word for it.
I agree. It's an interesting situation. And yeah, he's a little confused about his feelings towards Anne. But you know what? They're each other's destiny. They're each other's fish. So everything will be fine. Um, so yeah, I think that's that. So those were the questions. And then our last notes tab is just me making sweaters for our non-existent merch line. So if you guys want an exuberant sweater, no,
Hit us up.
joking. There's
Just
no
kidding.
sweater. There's no
Just kidding.
sweater. But that was the podcast. So we can close off now, Alexis, I guess.
Yeah, well, that is all of our notes and all of our questions. You can find Ophelia and I on Tumblr. I am at Sherberts with 2 S's, and Ophelia is at Lydia's -- styles. Again, if you have any questions or things that you want to discuss, You can send those over to at Call Me Cordelia podcast on Tumblr, and we'll try to talk about them next episode. But also, if you have any theories or just you want to scream, like, feel free to direct message us. We'll try to get back to you as soon as possible, and I'm always down to scream. So,
Same.
just whenever. But thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.